special interview on ET Now. This is a global exclusive because we're talking to the top management of an app, of a product that's become a household name and integral part of our lives in the last few months. I am talking about Zoom, which has seen a huge explosion in growth in the last few months. Everyone seems to be using it for pretty much everything. It's become integral, the work from home culture, and they added nearly $50 billion to their market cap since the COVID crisis began. In fact, the Financial Times recently listed it as one of the companies that prospered during the pandemic. But to understand more on their India plans, we have two top executives from Zoom. We have Aparna Bawa, their COO, and Velchamy Sankarlingam, who recently joined Zoom as the president for products and engineering. So thank you both so much for talking to ET Now. I believe this is your first interview to any Indian channel. So thank you very much for that global experience. Welcome to ET Now, Aparna and Velchamy.
Thank you.
Right. Aparna, let me begin with you. How have the last few months been, and were you really prepared for this explosive growth that you saw? Has it settled down now? The velocity of growth that you've seen. Take us through the last few months, and particularly in India, because recent Sensor Tower data showed that Zoom was one of the most downloaded non-gaming apps by Indians. So take us through the traction that you saw.
It has been incredible, Chandra. We, at the end of December, globally, we announced that we had around 10 million daily meeting participants. So that includes both free and paid users. And then this pandemic hit. And we really saw it as an opportunity and actually an obligation. We provide an outstanding video collaboration service that connects people. And even in our own families, we started to note that human connection is missing in a pandemic when we're all forced to lock down and even stand 6 feet apart from our grandmothers and our aunts and uncles, etc. We took it as an obligation and a very strong privilege to be able to service the human connection needs for the world at large. And so by the end of April, we announced that we had reached 300 million daily meeting participants, which is an incredible growth in a short amount of time. I would love to say that it was perfectly planned and everything was orchestrated in the background, but I am not sure that anything about this pandemic is perfectly planned. And I would say, we have used it as an opportunity to really think about how we want to scale our business and how we want to, expand our reach into various different communities. The one thing I would say I noticed right off the bat is that the use cases for the platform, just took off in ways that I didn't anticipate. I don't think any of us anticipated. If you remember at the end of December, Zoom was on a very solid course for being a workplace collaboration provider. Yeah. And over the pandemic, we have seen those use cases change. So now you have yoga classes on Zoom. You have weddings on Zoom. Unfortunately, you have funerals. Yes, graduations on Zoom. I think Velchamy's daughters did their graduation ceremony on Zoom. I think Eric spoke at his kids' high school commencement ceremony on Zoom. So I think the world has sort of adopted Zoom as a way to connect and make that human connection at a time when we can't see each other. I think forever human connection has changed because Zoom has been able to prove that video collaboration provides something when you can't physically be with someone else.
Right. Velchamy, take us through the India-specific growth that you have seen, because at least in terms of installs, the numbers are very encouraging. Would you be able to give us a breakup in terms of the number of users here, how it's growing, and the use cases in terms of enterprises and individuals?
I don't think we split the users by country, but we can give you a sense of the growth. What we have seen between, I think, January and April is about 67 times the number of free users and about 4 times number of paid users with at least 10 users in an account. The business growth has been 4 times, and then the free user growth has been about 67 times during these 3 months.
Right. A follow-up question to you. You recently spoke about investing big in India in terms of ramping up investments here. Can you take us through what we can expect? Is it going to be data centers, or in terms of hiring or R&D? What can we expect from Zoom?
We'll have more details coming up pretty soon. But in general, what I would say is, like what the previous question from you to Aparna about the growth, we have sustained all this growth. And one of the things that I realize is that we need to scale the organization. So when you scale the organization, you need to get a lot of talent. The team here is an excellent team. It's a world-class team, but we need more of the world-class team. So part of it is, how do you expand the world-class team worldwide? And then the other part is also, as the users are growing, we need more presence, more capacity worldwide. So generally, that's what we are looking at. In terms of the specifics, we'll have more details coming up pretty soon.
Right. Aparna, I noticed in the last few weeks, there has been a concerted effort by Zoom to establish that, what, this is an American company built by an immigrant. I saw the conversation between you and Velchamy. I also saw a video that one of the co-founders of WebEx put up, Chandra, recently, talking about Eric's journey over the last 2 decades in the US. Why do you think Zoom has found it difficult to shake off this image, this Chinese connection, especially at a time when the US is at war with China, India is at war with China? How difficult is this going to be?
Chandra, I have to say that we can only be who we are and stay true to who we are. Rumors are rumors, and it will be what it is in the marketplace. The only thing we can do as a company is reiterate our core values and our history and our future, where we perceive we're going to be. I would say Zoom is an American company. We're listed on the NASDAQ. We have a founder and our CEO who is Chinese ethnically. He is an American citizen. But we're a global company. I would say we, are in over 80 different countries across the world today. And we have, employees located all over the world. I would say our focus is on continuing to build our service and focusing on our customers. That is the only thing we can do, and it's the best thing to do, especially when there are rumors all over the place. Rumors come and go, in my mind. Your diligence and your commitment to your mission, your vision, and your values, that's what endures forever. And that has been our focus all along. I will say Eric is probably one of the most genuine, grounded people I have ever met in my entire life. And I think everybody at Zoom will probably say the same thing. So, in you take his lead very strongly, and he is just focused on delivering a very, very outstanding service and product to as many people as possible and making the world a better place. That's about it.
Right. Aparna, a follow-up. I think one of the reasons why people keep harping on this is because they feel that a lot of your product and development happens out of China. You have nearly 700 employees there. Perhaps a lot of critical work happens out of that region. How would you answer these questions or these concerns?
Right. What I would say to that is we are a technology company, and technology companies, focus on R&D efforts all over the world. Lots of companies have R&D centers out of China. For us, most of our development actually is directed and organized through the United States, just like any sort of global technology company. I mean, if you look at the landscape, I don't want to get into different names, but if you actually take a look at the landscape, the R&D center being offshore is not a new thing for technology globally. For us, it's about making sure that we communicate the expectations with which we run ourselves to our customers clearly, and we establish that, that common baseline. I mean, honestly, this is an industry-wide phenomenon. Again, I can't really speculate on rumors about us per se, but it really depends. It really turns on how we choose to conduct ourselves.
Right. Velchamy, you are growing the India business at a time when the government is driving this whole effort towards Atmanirbhar Bharat and self-reliance. We recently saw the government banning, 59 Chinese apps in one fell swoop. Now, while Zoom is not a Chinese app, it is an American company. The Home Ministry did issue a circular sometime in April, highlighting security concerns. So how are you going to address these security concerns to ensure that Zoom continues to operate in India, particularly at a time when it's seen this huge explosion in the number of users? And this is one of the largest internet markets in the world. So what steps are you putting in place here to assure the government, the local government in India?
So one of the things, Chandra, what we have done is we have sold it to multi-global organizations. There are a lot of governments using Zoom as well. They've all gone through all the rigor. I mean, they don't just pick Zoom. They look at what is our data center architecture, how do we do our code test, etc. We've gone through all the drills with multiple multinational companies and also multiple governments. The UK Parliament, they had their comment session on COVID in Zoom. And then the Singapore government, I think they've approved Zoom as one of the tools to teach remote learning, education, etc. So we have gone through all of this. I think our job is to make sure we provide the right information to the right folks in the government so that they can make a decision based on the right data. So that's what we are in the process of doing.
Right. And the latest hacks that we saw on Twitter, the massive hacks, has again, Velchamy, this is for you, has again put the spotlight on security. How are you reading this as the president of product and engineering of one of the leading apps in the world? Twitter was clearly caught unaware. It's kind of, it's in damage control mode now. But how are you going to handle these concerns going forward?
I think the fundamental way you deal with that is bring all of this as part of your DNA. It's not like you build a product and then you look at whether it's secure, etc. So that is something that we've been doing for a while. We just need to do even better to say that this is basically not you build something and then look at problems. It's more like when you build it, you need to think about all these different scenarios, different use cases. So if you look at Zoom, for example, it is built as a business application that is going to be managed by IT. That's what we were, like Aparna said, end of last year. And because it's so easy to use, there were so many applications that people started using Zoom for. And what we realized is now we got to become the IT department for the whole world, because there are educators that are actually using it, and then they don't know all the security options. There is something called a waiting room. There is something called a passcode for the meeting, etc. So I think right now our process is to make sure that we make it even more easier while doing it, making sure that the product doesn't become complicated. So we still want to focus on the ease of use, and then we build on security, privacy, and then the reliability. We already have the reliability. It works always. So these are all the pillars that we focus on and make sure that the DNA of the company is around all these pillars.
Right. Aparna, I want to pick your brains on the competitive landscape in India. Recently, Mukesh Ambani launched JioMeet. And the first thing that struck everyone was, how similar it was to Zoom, at least the user interface. Were you flattered? Were you outraged? What was the first reaction? I'm very curious to.
The first reaction that I had personally sort of matched the corporate reaction, which is, competition makes us think about how to innovate, how to make our product and our services better, and how to make ourselves sort of provide more value to our customer. And that's the biggest sort of benefit. We've been in operation since about 2011. The product shipped a couple of years later, or was launched a couple of years later, and we've always been through our history in a situation where we have very, very large legacy vendors that are our competitors. So competition is something that we're very comfortable with and we're very used to. Now, what matters to us is how we handle the competition, if it is competition. And there are many things that go into making Zoom successful. The UI is one of them. The architecture that Velchamy described just now is also one of them. All the security initiatives, the easy to use features. One of the biggest things that makes Zoom so good is that it just works. And look at this video quality. I mean, I was joking earlier that you asked me to sit closer to the screen and now you can see all my wrinkles. Those kinds of, it is hard to replicate that. It comes as a package. And I think underlying all of those attributes is a company that really has a laser focus on customer feedback and reacting to that customer feedback in a constructive way. And so I think that will not change regardless of competitors that might come or go over time.
In terms of the features that Zoom offers, I mean, if I look at a Microsoft or a Google, video conferencing or video calling would be one of the options among the other features, and they kind of use the others to promote this. So what plans does Zoom have to kind of expand its product portfolio or features? How are you going to do that?
Sorry, was that a question for me, right?
Yeah, to you, Velchamy.
Yeah, so, we already have the whole unified communication stack. So we already provide telephony as well, in addition to the meetings. And if you look at a lot of the enterprises, they're looking at how do they do the teleconference, the video conference, and all of that is already, so we are building a portfolio. And even that, there is a lot of additional areas that we are working on. I don't think we have announced anything yet, but there is a lot of work that internally we are doing, and then we'll come out with announcements in the future.
In India, I think you have a presence in Mumbai and Hyderabad, if I'm not mistaken. Take us through your presence here, and you mentioned talent acquisition as a big focus area here. So how many now? How many will you add? Any numbers that you can share?
So yes, so we do have 2 data centers here in India, Mumbai and Hyderabad. And then we have a sales team in Mumbai, which we are investing in, and we expect to triple over the next year or so. We will be announcing more expansion into India from a corporate sense, but that announcement is yet to come, so I don't want to take it away from them. But definitely stay tuned. We're very excited. I will get in trouble, Chandra. No sneak peek yet, but definitely stay tuned. We do plan to invest in India over the next 5 years. And again, we recognize the strong talent opportunity within India and the strong culture of tech, which is definitely something that we want to tap into.
But I found the conversation between you and Velchamy fascinating a week back on Medium. The way both of you kind of traced your Indian roots and how the top brass of Zoom, there are so many people of Indian origin. So Aparna, take us through your own, childhood in India before moving on to the US. We'd love to know about your roots here.
Well, I spent a good portion of my elementary school age in India. I went to a school called Cluny Convent in Malleshwaram. My mother and yes. But back in the days when there was not that much development in Malleshwaram, I don't think it's even recognizable now. But we used to walk. I remember the favorite memory is walking to school. One girl picks up the next girl, who picks up the next girl, and as you get to the closer to the school, you have like 30 people walking together to school. So I had some very fond memories and very good years. I still keep in touch with my friends from, back in, 4th standard and 5th standard, which is really amazing. My parents did end up coming to the U.S., in my teen years, and I've been in the U.S. since then, but very strong roots in India. My grandmother just passed away. She lived in India until last year, and I would go back to Bangalore maybe every year, every 2 years, take my family, my kids, and visit with them. My uncle lives in Bangalore as well, and so it was just lots of family connections, lots of close connections to India, and we're from Tamil Nadu, so actually we're Tamilian, and my parents originally are from Vangal and Namakkal, the villages in India. So Velchamy and I like to joke around about our similarities and connections.
That's nice. Maybe both of you can converse in Tamil over a Zoom call or something.
Absolutely. I told him when he joined, if it wasn't for COVID, I would take him to the dosa corner right away to celebrate. But, that'll have to, stay tuned. Maybe I have to make him dosa next time when COVID is all done.
Aparna told me about her childhood here in her roots. Tell me about yours. You grew up in K. Kamaraj's constituency, and you spoke about having Indian food with Eric. So take us through that.
Yeah, so I was born in Virudhunagar, and then I studied. They started a new central board school under the Kamaraj. So there's something called KVS. So I studied there till like 10th grade. So we had and the school was like a very good school. They brought a principal from Lawrence. His name was McMahon. So he was like an excellent principal, and it is a very good educational infrastructure we had. Then I went to boarding school in Montfort, in Aircraft called Montfort. So I studied my 11th and 12th there. So when I was there, we used to come to Bangalore as a tourist spot. Okay, Bangalore those days, the reasons we go to Bangalore, I think is like movie theaters and then gardens. Okay, so we used to do a day trip where we go and then the bus drops us all. The Majestic Circle, you can just walk around, like pretty much watch any movie you want, get good food, and then have fun. So Bangalore used to be like that. I think BEL, Bharat Electronics, was the tech at that point. And then after school, I studied at College of Engineering, Guindy in Chennai. Yeah, and then I basically graduated out of there. Then I came to US. In my family, other than me, I have 3 sisters. They still are in Virudhunagar. My wife is from Thoothukudi. Her brother and parents are still in Thoothukudi. And then because every company that I worked for, we normally have like global development teams or operations teams. So I normally make a couple of visits to India like every year. And then every visit, I normally go to Virudhunagar, Thoothukudi, and then if I have time, I'll go to Kodaikanal and play a round of golf. So that is sort of my
you
routine.
were colleagues with Eric as well, right? In WebEx,
yeah.
Both of you were together.
Yeah, so WebEx, the way it happened was WebEx was, Eric was part of WebEx. And then the first acquisition WebEx did was a company that I was part of. So I was running engineering and operations in that company. And then WebEx acquired the company. The company was called presenter.com. And then once I became part of WebEx, Eric and we got along very well. We started working together very well. We felt like our ideas, everything is same.
We should buy each other lunch. That's something that
yeah. So see, the problem is what happens is a lot of the fancy restaurants, you don't get authentic food. Okay, so I know that about India, and then Eric knows about whether it's Chinese, Korean, etc. So we used to go like twice or thrice for lunch. So he has to pick a restaurant which is like authentic Asian. And then some of them, there are dishes that were not even in the menu that like we used to order. And similarly, I used to take him to all the hole-in-the-wall Indian restaurants, which have very good quality food, etc. And he loved Indian food. And even the other day, he said, hey, if we didn't have COVID, we would have gone for lunch many times. So now we got to figure out how do we do lunch over Zoom. So.
On that note, Aparna and Velchamy, thank you very much for talking to us in this revealing chat, your first time on Indian TV. And perhaps if things get better, we can all have lunch at some Darshini in Bangalore. So that's the best place for authentic food than the fancy restaurants, like you said. But on that note, thank you very much for joining us on ET Now.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Look forward to that dinner.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.